Welcome back to Croft as we get set for round 20 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. 1 minute board has been shown, engines fire up. Everybody now starts to leave the grid in readiness for 15 laps of the North Yorkshire circuit with Josh Cook on pole position. Jake Hill lining up with him at the front. 60 kilos for Josh Cook, 54 now for Jake Hill. And starting a little bit further back on the grid, starting 13th is Tom Ingram, as the drivers now get set for that green flag. And once they accelerate away, it is a last opportunity to get a little bit of warmth into the tyres, ready for this second race of the day. The grid, of course, is based on the results of race 1. Ballast is now as you cross the line rather than championship weight. And in a moment, that green flag will flutter to get everybody off the line for this formation lap, except for Jack Goff, whose car has ended up in the pit lane. It was on the grid. You can just see the car, in fact, outside its pit garage. We'll try and get to the bottom of what the drama is, but Jack Goff's car off the grid and into the pit lane. So fingers crossed it will start, but I'm afraid to say we'll have to wait and see. Right, everybody accelerates away then, making the run down towards Clevo Corner. We heard from Michael Crease a little while ago, set for his 50th BTCC start. Next, let's check in with Tom Ingram. Another anniversary, this 200th touring car race. Ting, where's the time gone?
Where has the time gone, David? It feels like only yesterday I was taking my first weekend into the BTCC, having a chat with Louise Goodwin, and a big starstruck by yourself, David, and of course you too, don't worry. It's amazing how quickly it's gone, and I've loved every second of it.
Well, you say you've loved every second, or even this weekend, because yesterday, every emotion, the high of pole and then that great disappointment. What was the story behind the technical problem and failing that ride height?
Well, yeah, as you'd have seen, that we were low, so we have a roller, like a glorified paint roller, I guess, that has to go underneath the front of the car. Just making sure that we're legal and we're not underneath ride height, because naturally being lower, you have a lower center of gravity, so there is a performance by being lower. We had a damaged wishbone, so there was a bottom clevis in the wishbone that completely pulled itself out. So you could move the car like about 2 or 3 inches on ride height. So yeah, she wasn't going to pass ride height, unfortunately. And that, to the left of the law, put us under ride height and saw us at the back of the grid.
OK, let's look forward then. No weight in the car and now a bone-dry track. So what progress can be made here?
Yeah, she feels great even on the warm-up lap. It's amazing how responsive it all starts to feel when you take the weight out. So yeah, it's a case of eyes forwards, exactly as you say, trying to make as much progress, but also be mindful that we've got the reverse grid in this race, so we can do with trying to stay in that 6 to 12. But naturally, if we can get higher than that, I'm not going to say no.
We'll leave you to it. Good luck, Tom.
Thanks, guys.
For round 20 of the championship, Josh Cook will start on pole position. Jake Hill with him at the front of the grid. Colin Turkington and Ash Sutton share row 2 ahead of Rory Butcher and Tom Chilton. Matt Neal will start next ahead of Bobby Thompson, then Adam Morgan and Dan Camish round out the top 10 on the grid. Tom Oliphant starts from 11th, then it's Chris Smiley. Tom Ingram is 13th ahead of Ollie Jackson and Stephen Jelly, with Aidan Moffat starting 16th on the grid. 17th would have been Jack Goff, the car in the pit lane. 18th is Senna Proctor ahead of Mike Bushell and Carl Boardley. Then you've got Andy Neate starting 21st ahead of Michael Crease. Jack Butel, steering dramas for him in the earlier race, and engine drama for Nicholas Hamilton. They're 23rd and 24th on the grid, with Sam Osborne starting on the back road. Sadly, Jack Constable not getting into the race again either. So 1 or 2 gaps on that grid, 1 or 2 question marks. Nicholas Hamilton's car, I fear, may not be there either. There is Sam Osborne. He pitted early in the first race and admitted it was kind of his fault, really. He had a moment and did a bit of damage and therefore had to come into the pit lane. But he's another one to see what progress can be made up from the back of the grid. So hopefully Jack Goff will start from the pit lane if he starts at all. No Constable, no Hamilton on the grid. But Josh Cook from 0 ballast to 60 kilos. That's going to be a very different feeling on the Civic now. And the green flag shown at the back means that everybody is back for the warming up lap. So can Colin Turkington, can Ash Sutton get an absolute zinger of a start from the second row of the grid? Let's find out as the lights go out now. We're racing at Croft. Good start made by both the rear-wheel drive cars, but it's going to be Josh Cook that hangs on to the advantage. Ingram's on the grass, 2 wheels on the lawn as he comes down to Clevo. It's going to be Josh Cook that hits the front, and Turkington goes very deep into the corner and through the gravel. Sutton's ahead of him, and Turkington's in the tyre barrier. That is not something
front tyres. He couldn't stop the car. Another big off. It's Butcher again. Fortunately, this time there's no barrier in the way. In the background, you can see Turkington trying to get out, but that was purely down to cold front tyres.
So there was a bit of rubbing into turn one. Turkington, the one that came off worst, spat out into the gravel. Butcher spat out into the weeds. Safety car deployed. Cook leads Hill, leads Sutton into third place. They're going to be behind the safety car. Ingram's made good progress. You can see he's on the back of Adam Morgan. They'll race until they get to the boards as Hill gets right into the back of Josh Cook into Sunny in. But the safety car deployed with Turkington in the gravel at the first corner. And that is very much advantage Sutton now.
Sutton is weaving to get more heat into his tyres until they get to a safety car board. They haven't seen one yet. Is there one at the marshal's post here? I'm looking for it. There's a lot of blocking at the front. There must be at least at the start-finish line, but they haven't seen it yet.
No board there on the inside of the marshal, is there? They'll come up towards the line. There was a yellow flag. There's another one on the pit straight. So now the message gets through. Everybody has to slow right down, and Josh Cook leads a real helter-skelter first lap.
Yeah, great starts actually by Josh Cook and Jake Hill. They both were in front of Turkington. Turkington locked up and just clipped the back of Hill's car. Was lucky not to spin him out, as I'm sure we'll see, but just could not stop the car. So huge championship advantage swings to Sutton.
And the other question is whether Rory Butcher was able to dig himself off the grass on the infield, and indeed what's happened to Ollie Jackson on the first lap. He's not come through either.
So off the start line, Cook and Hill make good start. Hill gets across the road in front of Turkington. Now watch Turkington. He locks up here, clips the back of Hill, but just can't stop the car. Off he goes, and unfortunately the momentum and trajectory takes him into the gravel.
Ollie Jackson into the pits at the end of the opening lap. Replay of the start from Turkington.
Yeah, on board, this will be interesting. He makes an average start, not a really good one, and then a little, wait for it, just can't stop the car. Can't stop the car.
And the tyre barrier awaits with open arms to ensnare the BMW. So that was the first incident, and then coming out of the chicane, Rory Butcher had his big moment, which put the Ford onto the grass on the inside of the field, and he has not got going. And Ollie Jackson had a drama somewhere, and he is in the pit lane. Safety car in this time.
Ollie Jackson's out, last race winner from Silverstone. He's out of the car, so not a good start this race for Motorbase with Butcher off and Hill out. Now, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Paul O'Neill, did notice a slight bit of contact between Sutton and Turkington on that start, and that may have, that was just the cold right-hand tyres, and he just flew off the road. But it may have destabilised Turkington's car a little bit on the run down to the braking area. They're back underway.
Just wondered whether Butcher might not have had a little rub from Adam Morgan. I think we're very close up behind him. However, we'll let people argue that out after the race, which is about to get back underway. Safety car is in, green flags fly, racing again as Cook, Hill, Sutton lead over the line. It is Matt Neal fourth, Tom Chilton is fifth, in sixth is Bobby Thompson. They dive down towards Clermont with seventh being Adam Morgan, eighth is Ingram, ninth is Oliphant, Chris Smiley is in 10th place. And can Josh Cook get away while Jake Hill defends from Ash Sutton? Here they come through the chicane, and the top three already escaping as far as Matt Neal is concerned in fourth place, and he's got Chilton crawling all over the back of him.
Well, the track temperature is up a little bit. It's up to 17 degrees, but you wouldn't know it looking at these cars sliding around all over the place.
It was a Croft that BTC Racing had its first ever British Touring Car Championship success, courtesy of Dan Lloyd. And right now they've got one car in the lead. The other is fifth, and Chilton there, look, crawling all over the back of Matt Neal. Ingram is ahead of Adam Morgan then, so a place gain. That puts him up now into seventh spot. You're looking at the fight for fourth. Same type of Honda Civic, two different teams operating the cars, and Chilton is crawling all over the back of Neal.
Yeah, there's a difference in tyre strategies again. You see Sutton weaving to generate some more temperature. Oh, somebody bit off in the back. There was some polystyrene flying in the background, or some fiberglass, but that was on the exit of Sunny out. But definitely there's some different tyre strategies. We heard Tom Ingram on the line talking about how some teams were taking brand new front tyres and scrubbed rears. That destabilises the car on a front-wheel drive car, but gives it more grip throughout the race.
So Cook leading as he goes over the timing line. Ingram has done the fastest lap of the race. We're up to 16 laps, of course, because of the safety car period. So the heavier Hondas, Cook leading Hill, then the Infinity third. You're riding with Ash Sutton out of the chicane. And look at the gap they've opened up already. Matt Neal, in a sense, the cork in the bottle with this battle pack raging on behind him.
Yeah, nice dry track though they've got now, so they'll be getting the tyres up to temperature. They didn't set their quickest laps in race 1, albeit it was on a slightly damp track until sort of lap 8 onwards, but we should get some quicker times earlier in this race.
Out of the Jim Clark S's. Now Matt Neal just escaping a little bit from Chilton, who's busy defending from Ingram. That's Adam Morgan, who is in 8th place. He's got Oliphant behind a lock-up from Thompson, so Bobby Thompson loses out as well to Ingram. That is Camish now busy squabbling with both of the Hyundais. Smiley ahead of Proctor.
Yeah, several milestones in this race. You mentioned Creasy and Ingram having their 50th and 200th race respectively, but it's also Camish's 80th race and Sutton's 140th.
And Josh Cook, the race 1 winner, is not necessarily going to lead at the end of the lap because Jake Hill stuck his nose up the inside, but that's left the door open for Ash Sutton now to mount the attack for second place. Honda on the inside, Infinity on the outside line, and he's already ahead as they go to Clairvaux, but Jake Hill on the inside line breaks as late as he dares, and he goes back through.
Well done, Jake Hill. He wasn't going to be bullied into losing that position, was he? And he probably thinks, if he's smart, that Sutton will know that Turkington's out, so how hard is Sutton going to push it? He knows Sutton wants those points.
He's already the championship leader by 2. It's going to extend the margin if he finishes. So bank, look back. There you've got Matt Neal, but behind him it's going to be Ingram round the outside of Chilton, diving into Tower. Now remember, the Toyota is weight-free out of all of this, and Ingram is carving his way into contention. He'll have the inside line now going into the Jim Clark S's.
Yeah, he leaves room. He left a lot of room for Chilton. He's going to sweep back across the track, but Chilton's there. Can he get the car stopped? He can. Well, Ingram left him a lot of room there. That was very generous of him.
Thompson is next, then it's Morgan, Oliphant and Camish. Now don't forget, Dan Camish needs to score well because it was a bad qualifying, so he was mired in the pack in the first race and he needs to try to push forward, but it's not proving easy for him.
No, and he's again got very little weight, only 6 kilos on, so that car should fly. Again, we see coming out of the hairpin, difference of line, difference of power application, front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. Oh, another good run, but Hill makes Sutton go to the outside.
And Jake Hill fends him off. So out of Clairvaux they come, into Hawthorne, and this little battle is doing exactly what Josh Cook needed. It's allowing him to get away, not by much, but the gap is creeping up. When they crossed the timing line, it was half a second. Rory Butcher is back into the race, despite a pit stop. He's a lap down, and he's set the fastest lap.
Yeah, good for him. 22.2. That is actually, I'll just check against the lap record that was previously held. I believe that could be a quicker lap than we've ever seen here. No, we're still Colin Turkington's 1:22 dead from last year.
So down towards Sunny heads Josh Cook in the lead. Through that double apex right-hander Sunny in. This is Sunny out, and then onto the power up towards the complex. It was half a second between him and Jake Hill at the start of the lap. It is Ash Sutton in 3rd place, and then you've got Matt Neal hanging on to 4th. Chilton is defending well from Ingram, whose car's picked up a little bit of damage on the left front corner. What progress of Michael Crease as well, because remember he started way back 22nd. He's up to 14th, going nicely as Sutton goes to the inside of Hill. This for 2nd place, there's contact, damage to the Infinity. Sutton backs out of it, lets Jake Hill keep the pace, but he has got a puncher.
He's got a punch on the right front. That's exactly the sort of incident that he shouldn't have got involved in. He's going to hemorrhage points to Turkington.
So Matt Neal is ahead of him, and Ash has got a long drag home now to the pit lane with effectively only 3 good tyres on the car. So a punctured right front. He's going to lose places, but crucially he is going to lose points. And this was a race as he goes off the road because it just won't turn. This was a race in which he should have banked a truckload.
Yeah, and given himself a good position for race 3. I tell you what, if Ash Sutton loses this championship, he will have only himself to blame. This is the replay. He dives very late. There's not really as much of a gap. Inevitably, there's a bit of contact, and that causes the damage to the front of the puncture. He may well regret that move. He didn't need to make it. It was extremely marginal, and he's only ended up compromising himself and his championship.
So it is all changed then within that leading group, as right now it is Josh Cook from Jake Hill getting away. Third is Matt Neal. Now Matt doesn't have to think about defending for the moment. He's closing on the delayed hill. Up into fourth place now has come Ingram. It's Chilton fifth. And of course, Ash Sutton is in danger of losing not only a lap as he limps to the pit lane, but another one while they change the tyre. And look further back, that is Dan Camish attacking Bobby Thompson. Thompson is having the weekend of his touring car life here, isn't he? Running up near the front. And that Audi has found a pace that we've not seen all season. It's going really well. I know it started the day well thanks to a good qualifying effort yesterday, but Thompson is showing just what he's capable of.
Yeah, he's raced really well so far today.
Keeping Camish at bay. Camish has got Morgan behind him. Bit of smoke out of the Mercedes there. Oh, that's damage as well, isn't it, from the right front corner. And this is Sutton feeling ever so deflated.
Well, the only thing he can do now is put another tyre on and go for a point for fastest lap. He did it at Silverstone, but he's going to really kick himself. We love the way Ash Sutton races. Yeah. He's one of the stars of the championship. He's exciting to watch, but sometimes, and that's an example of it, discretion would be the better part of valour.
So, right now, Sutton pitting. Colin Turkington breathes a sigh of relief because that 2-point deficit he's not going to grow necessarily after this race. Now, look at Camish. He is now starting to really work the back of Bobby Thompson's Audi. He's 7th, he wants to be 6th, and the Audi fending off the Honda for the moment. Ingram running in 4th, has got Chilton behind him. Thompson is defending here from Camish as they head up towards the complex once more. This lap 8 out of 16. Well,
this is the point where Camish and Ingram really need to get as many points as they can, with Turkington and Sutton not scoring or getting. Turkington definitely won't score. The only thing open to Sutton is a point for fastest lap, so no real points for them. This is a chance for Ingram and Camish to close that gap. Ingram was 47 points behind coming into this race. Camish only 24. That gap must close up.
So both of them come to this situation of wanting as many points as possible, but not wanting to jeopardise those that they've got at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see how they push towards the very end of the race. Now look at Matt Neal. We know that Jake Hill took a whack from Ash Sutton, so you can anticipate his car will have lost some pace through some damage. Matt Neal is getting closer and closer all the time.
Yeah, he is, and he's not really in a position to help Camish at the moment. Camish is too far back, so Neal is definitely racing for himself.
Rory Butcher with the fastest lap of the race to his credit. Cook to Hill 2 seconds, as with the maximum weight on board, Josh Cook continues to edge away. There is Hill in 2nd place. Matt Neal now starting to get a little bit more energetic in his efforts to find a way through. Matt has recently been talking about maybe this actually being his last season. He's not had a win yet, and if it is going to be his farewell tour, so to speak, he desperately would like race wins within it. Here he comes on the back of Jake Hill. He's going for 2nd place as he comes up now to complete lap number 9.
Well, it's his 30th year in the British Touring Car Championship. Quite an incredible run of competitive action. So the championship will be all the poorer for not having Matt Neal if he does decide to retire. But on the other hand, he richly deserves it.
Well, quite indeed. And of course, it's not the end necessarily of him in the paddock, because he would still run the team. And he is also suggesting that maybe his son Henry might, in the fullness of time, take over the seat in the team. So Josh Cook, race leader, comes out of tower, 2 seconds clear of this battle for 2nd place. Jake Hill and Matt Neal. Remember, this car has got the full weight on board. We've talked about how the rear-wheel drive cars have carried it so well at certain places, but you have to say this Honda looking very comfortable with it.
Yeah, it's going well at the moment. Remember here last year, we saw Andy Jordan win race 1 and 2, and through goes Neal on Jake Hill for 2nd place, down through Barcroft into Sunny.
Right, so Cook to Neal was 2.6 seconds. Matt Neal 24 kilos, Josh Cook 60 kilos. How much of that deficit can Matt eat into with coming up to 6 laps of the race to go? This still could be on for Matt.
Very much so. It's the latter third of the race where the tyres start to struggle with the weight of the car. So Matt's definitely got the faster car at the moment. Can he take advantage of a lighter, faster car?
Over the timing line they had, the gap is already down to 2.3 seconds then, so Matt Neal is on a charge. Jake Hill down in 3rd place, but another podium would be good. It's been another up and down kind of a season for Jake. Once the reliability of that car was sorted out, it's been a consistent front runner, but right now it's giving away, of course, with another 30 kilos of weight in it compared to Matt Neal's car. You can understand why the pace has changed.
And the car feels very different. He raced in the first race with only 6 kilos on, so it's going to feel very different. In actual fact, on that last lap, Neal's teammate Hamish got past Thompson. Remember, Thompson had been holding up for many laps, done a fine job, and he got through there. So both the Halfords, Yuasa Hondas moving forward a place.
And a quick word about Jack Goff. Started from the pit lane and has got himself up into 19th spot as he tries to push on despite the problems that took him off the grid. So there is Neal in the first sector of this lap. He was fractionally quicker. Replay of Camish round the outside of Thompson at Tower. That was good.
Yeah, he did it the hard way. He must have had a very good exit through the chicane, but a fine race, defensive race by Bobby Thompson. He's really going well this weekend.
So there is Josh Cook, race leader, coming up to the end of lap 11. So winner of race 1, can he hang on to a race lead? Can he win race 2? What about Ingram relative to Jake Hill? Is that gap going to come down? It was 2.8 seconds last time across the line. Yes, it has come down, 2.1 seconds. Ingram is closing on Hill for 3rd. Now that is Chilton versus Camish. Dan Camish getting better and better as the race goes on. So for 5th place, 0.3 of a second behind them. Chilton versus Camish. It's a similar situation in a sense that you have for the race lead, the BTC car being hustled along by the Dynamics entry behind.
Yeah, Matt Neal 0.3 of a second quicker than Josh Cook on that lap. Will that be enough? He needs a little bit more than that, I think, to close the gap. It's just over 2 seconds.
Camish goes through Tower. Damage there on the Hyundai. That is the Senna Proctor car that's picked up some damage. And Morgan's dropping back in the pack a little bit, isn't he? Aidan Moffat's keeping Stephen Jelly, and then also the pack behind at the Bay, coming out of the Barcroft and then Jim Clark S's sequence. Chilton working though so hard, but he gets it wrong. Out the inside goes Camish. Yeah, that was just pressure. It's very hard to brake there. You're braking on the turn from 140 plus miles an hour. It's really difficult. You just get it fractionally wrong, and the weight transfers, and you just can't slow the car down. So that made it easy for Camish to get through. I'm surprised that Senna Proctor hasn't received that black and orange meatball flag for the loose bonnet. That generally gets a flag, doesn't it? Because it's of the danger of it flying open. Yeah, if the air gets into it and rips it up. So let's see, there is Ingram going through. So Camish, remember, who's only got 6 kilos of weight in the car, 10th in race 1. As the race wears on, it looks ever racier against the heavier machinery out there. So we are now on to lap number 13. Camish is up into 5th. Can he go after Ingram? And Tom Oliphant's also been on his toes to get past Bobby Thompson. This is into the hairpin gap on the inside. The BMW goes through. Yeah, slotted that one in very neatly, didn't he? So Cook to Neal, 1.7 seconds now, with just under 4 laps to go. Oliphant comes up to have a go at Chilton as well. And Chilton, look at the time that he's lost relative to Camish. He lost the place, but he's had to go defensive, losing more time. But now that Honda looks as though it's struggling to hang on to the place. Yeah, probably maybe just struggling a little bit with tyres, depending on what he put on at the start of this race. But he's certainly not looking as pacey or as comfortable. Just looking at lap times again, that gap at the front came down to 1.7 seconds at the end of the last lap. So Neal is continuing to pull about 3/4 tenths off Cook each lap. Now Oliphant crawling all over the back of Chilton. Bobby Thompson is staying in touch as they get to the hairpin. Remember, Thompson leads the Jack Sears Trophy, so he's thinking about Jack Sears Trophy points as much as he is a good overall finish, because it is the Jack Sears Trophy that's the main aim for him this year. But it's good to have him running with that leading group. This is Ash Sutton having another big moment. That's because he's put a cold tyre on there to replace the one that he punctured, and he hasn't got it up to temperature yet. Well, he's just ruined that with a flat spot now. He had just done the absolute best in the first sector, but then, of course, he couldn't slow the car down, so his second sector wasn't all that good. We are on to lap number 14 here at Croft. It is round 20 of the championship. Josh Cook is leading by only 1 second now with under 3 laps to go. Matt Neal could do this. It's getting very close, isn't it? Very close. 60 kilos of weight lugged round by Josh Cook, 24 kilos in Matt Neal's car. There is Tom Chilton, who is currently hanging on to 6th place. It's Tom Oliphant behind him, and Oliphant crawling all over the back as here are the race leaders. And Josh Cook has this feeling of doom, doesn't he, now, because Matt Neal is virtually with him. It's going to be 2 laps to go at the end of this. Matt's got time enough to do it if a gap presents itself, and we know that Matt Neal can be in pretty robust mood when he wants to be.
Well, Matt may not get too many more chances to win races, and if this is his final year, you know for sure he's going to go for it.
Absolutely right. So, does Josh Cook try to defend, or does he let the lighter car, the quicker car go? He's going to want that race win, isn't he? Down to Clairvaux they turn. The gap starting the penultimate lap, 0.4 of a second. Bear in mind, had it not been for the safety car lap, this would be the last lap. Of course, the race extended by 1 because we had the safety car intervention. So Cook has got to try and make this Honda as wide as possible for a lap and a bit.
Cook very good through Hawthorns and the chicane there. He pulled out a little bit of a gap, but Neal closes it down on the brakes, as you'd imagine he would do, because of the weight difference between the 2 cars. So his best opportunity is in the last sector, where there's more braking and transfer of weight and direction for Matt Neal to get through.
So down through Barcroft they come, absolutely nose to tail. Now Josh Cook is struggling with the weight of the car, but he's defending well. He cannot afford to give Matt Neal even the hint of a gap on the inside. So Josh Cook then up towards the complex, ready to start the last lap. Either of these 2 could be the race winner. It's still Jake Hill in 3rd place. It's Tom Ingram in 4th, trying to back point to get himself back into the mix for the next event at Snetterton, but brake hard for the hairpin. Josh Cook now comes through the corner, and Matt Neal not able to get the run up alongside him. They're on to the last lap now. Yeah,
Josh went in the middle of the road there just to block Matt Neal off. But here we go on to the last lap. What trick has Matt Neal got?
He's got many up his sleeve, and he comes through Hawthorn. What Matt Neal doesn't know about British Touring Car Championship racing is not worth knowing. But Josh Cook then crossed the line 0.3 of a second ahead. He comes out on the chicane. Remember, he's got the heavier of the 2 cars, so Matt Neal, in theory, should be able to find a way by. But Josh has defended resolutely thus far. Matt closing up under braking into tower.
Yeah, again, Josh Cook was very good through Hawthorns and the chicane, so he wasn't under threat. From the inside, he had a nice little gap coming to the braking area, but now we know the rest of the lap is all about Matt Neal's car. He's quicker on the rest of the lap.
So they go through the Jim Clark S's, the kink at Barcroft, down to Sunny. Look, Neal closes, gets up the inside, turns Cook sideways, and he goes through. He didn't back out of it to let Josh keep the place, so Matt Neal goes through, but that surely is going to be discussed post-race.
Yeah, that's a similar sort of gaining an advantage, isn't it? I mean, if Cook is lucky, he's still going.
Yes.
And I suspect Matt Neal may get a little time penalty to switch those positions round, because he's definitely gained an advantage. It was a genuine attempt to pass cleanly, but it ended up in contact.
And so the run to the line, Matt Neal will see the checkered flag first at the end of round 20 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. Matt Neal takes the checkered flag ahead of Josh Cook, who led all the way, but for the last 3 corners. 3rd over the line is Jake Hill. 4th goes to Tom Ingram. Dan Kemish will be 5th. Tom Chilton 6th ahead of Tom Oliphant. Bobby Thompson 8th to win the Jack Sears Trophy. Senna Proctor, despite his damage, is 9th. Stephen Jelly rounds out the top 10. Well, we knew Matt wasn't going to just sit there, didn't we, for the duration of the race, but I fear there'll be a bit of discussion about that afterwards.
Yeah, it's our cameras don't pick up the angles very well at that point, because you're turning through Barcroft into Sunny in the braking area, but obviously the clerk of the course, Ian Watson, will have access to all of the cameras, on boards and everything else.
And this is Ash Sutton making his way up towards the timing line. He will be 20th, he will be out of the point, and he did not get the fastest lap point either. Shake of the head, though, as he knows that was a race and points that went begging. So Matt Neal celebrates the win. And let's have another look at it, Tim.
Yeah, again, we can't see how much the road is curving. Matt Neal, look, he's aimed for the inside. I think he probably realised he wasn't going to get there. Tried to get out of it, but you can't stop the car. This might give us a better idea. You have to set this move up very early and commit to it, which Matt Neal does here. but he just never really gets alongside, does he? He locked up in doing it because turning tighter, he unweighted the car. So that's a provisional win on the road, isn't it, for Matt Neal?
Yes, if you reflect on what happened between Butcher and Sutton in race 1, you'd anticipate the same perhaps in race 2. But on the road, Matt Neal is the winner for Halford Tuasa Racing. Got rid of their pesky apostrophes, I noticed, from the MOT for this weekend on the side. But Matt Neal takes the race win on the road by half a second from Josh Cook and Jake Hill, and we'll await the discussions to start. However, across the line, Matt Neal, half a second clear of Josh Cook, with Jake Hill third. Ingram fourth, Tom Ingram fourth from Dan Camish, then Tom Chilton with Tom Oliphant seventh and Bobby Thompson eighth to win the Jack Sears Trophy. Ninth, Senna Proctor and Stephen Jelly, rounding out the top 10. Aidan Moffat 11th from Chris Smiley and Adam Morgan. Sam Osborne 14th from near the back of the grid ahead of Mike Bushell, who took the last point. Andy Neate 16th from Jack Butel. From the pits, Jack Goff 18th, and then after their dramas, Rory Butcher 19th and Ash Sutton in 20th place. Michael Crease in the wars again, so another pit stop and ending up 21st. Ollie Jackson, an early retirement, and Colin Turkington off the road at the very first corner. So what does that do to the championship? It keeps that 2-point margin at the front between Ash Sutton and Colin Turkington. But look who's creeping back into the mix. Dan Camish, only 13 points adrift now. He's third. Tom Ingram's a bit closer as well, fourth. Rory Butcher fifth, ahead of Tom Oliphant and then Tom Chilton. Matt Neal's eighth, Adam Morgan ninth, and in 10th, it's Jake Hill.
Well, no question about the talking point of that race, and that is the non's point-scoring finish. Both Turkington locking up at turn 1 and going off, and Sutton, when handily placed in third place in the race and looking to score big points, making a slightly rash move on Jake Hill and ending up with a puncture and no points.
And there's another talking point, which is that man, Matt Neal, and his move on Josh Cook. And as you say, there's going to be a difference of opinion, undoubtedly. And will be aired first, I suspect.
Well, Matt will say the move was on. I was quicker on the brakes. My car was lighter. I made the move fairly and tried to go for the inside. The contact was very light. That's all the things he will say.
He'll be practicing them now, will he? Yes.
Yeah. Well, nobody knows after 30 years the better excuses in the bus.
That is true.
He knows exactly what to say.
So Matt Neal takes the race win on the road, and we'll hear his thoughts about that move, about that race, when we come back to Croft after the break.